Welcome to Aligned with Kell, the podcast where we talk all things small business. It's a mix of mindset, empowerment, real conversations, and of course, alignment. I'm your host, Kell, a businesswoman with close to 20 years of business experience. Get ready for a mix of solo deep dives and inspiring interviews with awesome guests who will share how they have aligned their businesses with the lives they love. Let's dive in to align your business with the life you've always wanted. Welcome to another episode of Aligned with Quarrell. I am Kell, and we are going on a short, punchy solo deep dive today. Once again, once this episode goes live, you're going to have noticed, if it is that you follow me on Instagram, a very big shift of my actual feed. Now, I'm recording this episode in advance because on Saturday, I head to Bali with Shez, my best friend, and our company, She Can. We are running our annual adventure week, and we're actually running 2 weeks back to back with 2 different groups of women, and I'm so excited. However, part of having a podcast is that I need to be prepared. So I am recording this episode in advance, and what I'm going to talk into on this episode has yet not occurred, but I know it will have by the time it goes live. And so I'm talking about my choice of archiving everything that was on my Instagram profile and replacing it with a 15 post feed that will remain the same moving forward. And this came about from a mastermind that I am in. I am in an incredible mastermind with very intelligent, savvy businesswomen. And one of them put in a post that was not intended for me, but another member, but it piqued my interest. And I went down this little journey of investigation and ended up connecting with Tori, who was the woman that has also done a podcast episode about this, that archived 8 years of Instagram posts and turned her feed into a 15 static post feed. What intrigued me and what really excited me was the fact that her feed no longer changes. Now, she is very strategic and does very well and is very consistent on posting reels and stories. Now, the reason this excited me so much is I have been very inconsistent with Instagram, and I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with keeping my feed looking like it's all branded and pretty, and, coming up with content that is a carousel and a reel and a static post and having a good combination of everything and, all of these things around the algorithm, etc., etc. The one thing that I am very consistent on, though, is doing stories each and every day. And so having a feed that speaks directly to your ideal client and your community that you want to work with and talks into who you are, what you do, how they can work with you, all of those things just fascinated me in the best possible way. And being a 2-4 sacral generator, I knew in the instant that this was something that I wanted to give a go. So as I said, I'm recording this episode before I have done this, but in preparation of knowing that this is something that I'm going to move into. And it just feels very freeing to me. I am going to archive my posts. I am not going to delete them, so that if this all goes pear-shaped and it is something that I should not have done, then I can always unarchive the posts and have them show back up. But my strategy after listening to Tori's podcast and consuming her content from her page feels very aligned with how I want to use Instagram as part of my business, not the be all and end all, not something that I want to give my power away to, but something that I can show up authentically and organically on my stories and in reels without having to think about, does that look aesthetically pleasing? Is that branded? Having to create things in Canva. I have far better things that I would like to do with my time within my business rather than creating those types of things in Instagram. And so for me, it's about stepping back now and being very, very clear on what those 15 posts are going to represent, what they are going to speak into, and then having a very clear strategy for reels and stories. Now, as I said, I have not done this yet. Do I know if it's going to work? Absolutely not. But what I do know for certain is that when I saw that, and I am passing on where it's come from. It is not my idea. I am not that clever. This is something that I saw, and being a generator, responded to in the moment. It was an absolute 100% yes, this is something that I want to do. As I said, I have no idea whether or not it's going to be successful or not. However, for me to think about not having to post on my feed again, to be able to create reels and have them sit in the reels section of Instagram without them actually being, all aesthetically pleasing if I choose not to, that feels really good for me. For me to be able to spend my time in my business communicating more with my members, having more conversations and connections in my DMs on Instagram, and having that time rather than spending it in Canva or feeling like I need to be putting together carousel posts or writing long form content for captions, etc. It just feels really, really good and really, really exciting. And I think that for me is like when I was picturing what mine might look like and how I would feel knowing that I don't ever have to post on my feed again. And when I say ever again, for the future of what I can see if I continue to have a 15 static post feed, that just really excited me. That just made me feel very free and very alive in that I can just show up on stories. I can invite people to have more conversations with me. I don't have to be thinking so much about what's next, what's the order, what's the process. And then I can have more fun with creating reels and really testing and measuring and seeing what the response of all of that together is. And so in that process, I've also put together my brand new free resource that really talks into what I'm passionate about doing with women in business, and that is my business alignment blueprint. I spoke about that a couple of weeks ago on the podcast. So if you want to go back and listen to that, you can. It is available for free on my website, kellquarrell.com.au. And it's just given me a really renewed sense of excitement and passion in my business. And it is also calling for me to be far more strategic in what it is that I'm posting without me feeling like it's very rigid and being in a box. So go on and have a look at my Instagram because, as I said, by the time this podcast episode is released, it will be there. You will see it. Do I say go for it? I would say go for it if you are like I was and you're like, oh my God, that sounds so exciting. This is what I want to do. Be very aware that you will need to be super consistent in reels and stories. You will need to have a strategy for those. If you are someone that perhaps doesn't like to be on socials all of the time, I don't know how that's going to work for you. What I know for me is that I am super inconsistent and irregular with posting on my feed. but I show up regularly in stories, and I know that I can transfer that to showing up regularly on reels. So as I said, if you're someone where you're like, wow, that's really interesting, would that be something that I would love to do? Then explore it. As I said, I knew in the moment, oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Everything I had shifted in my actual body. I could feel it. I'd be like, oh my gosh, that just sounds so incredible for me. So that is what I encourage my members and my clients that I work with, for them to trust what feels good for them in their body. And if it aligns, then why not give it a go? Business is always a game of trial and error and test and measure. And this is something that I've chosen to do. And so stay tuned. I will share what happens in my business, if anything, what happens with Instagram, if anything, as I progress down this journey. But for me, as I said, recording this episode before I've even done it, I'm super excited. So stay tuned on that. But thank you for joining me again on Aligned with Kell Quarrell. I hope you are enjoying the podcast, but have a beautiful day. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Aligned with Kell Quarrell. I hope our conversations have inspired you to be bold in the pursuit of your dreams. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd be so grateful if you shared it with the businesswomen in your life and took the time to leave a review. Your feedback is like an ice-cold glass of Prosecco, always welcomed and always appreciated. You might even consider giving the show a follow. Until next time, continue to take bold action towards aligning your business with your deepest desires.